Hello, we are back. Pen and Jeanette. We're doing our Be Holy for I Am Holy book club. And we are going to read the complete visions of Anne Catherine Emmerich. And those are beautiful visions this mystic has. She was approved by the church. So today we're going to read Melchizedek.
Can you add the part how she goes through the entire Bible and we're still in the very beginning? We're on Melchizedek, so if you know the Bible, you know we're in the beginning. And it will go all the way through Revelation, Jeanette told us.
Yes, she has visions. She might mix them up a little bit here and there because they're visions she gets, and she puts them down as she gets them. So,
and
she tries to stay in order as much as possible with the beginning to the end.
She was uneducated. They checked out all the facts that matched up historically for the most part. And then I like the way she does the chapters like this because she talks all about the person, whoever she's talking about, and then in the end she relates it to Jesus. So at least she has so far. So okay.
She was also bedridden a lot of her years of her life.
Yeah.
So
see, here she is.
Visions that came to her.
Yeah, here she is here. Hi, kitty, I'm home. And there, that's her sick in bed.
So Melchizedek. I have often seen Melchizedek, but never as a human being. I have always seen him as a being of another nature, as an angel, as one sent by God. I have never at any time seen any determinate dwelling place, any home, any family, any associates connected with him. I never saw him eating, drinking, or sleeping, and never did the thought occur to me that he was a mortal. He was clothed as no priest at the time on the earth, but like the angels in the heavenly Jerusalem, his robes were such as Moses upon the command of God. Afterward ordained the priestly vestments should be. I have seen Melchizedek appearing here and there, interposing and legislating at the affairs of nations, as for instance, at the celebration of victories after war, at that time waged with such cruelty. Whenever he appeared and wherever he appeared, wherever he was, he exercised an irresistible influence by his mere presence. No one opposed him, and yet he never resorted to harsh measures. Even the idolaters cheerfully accepted his decisions and acted upon his advice. He had no companion of his own nature. He was entirely alone. Sometimes he had 2 hired couriers. They were clothed in short white garments, and they ran on before him to announce his coming. He dismissed them when their mission was over. All that he needed he had without trouble of acquiring. They from whom he received anything could always spare what they gave. They bestowed it upon him with joy. They regarded him with reverential fear, but esteemed themselves happy to be in his company. Although the wicked found fault with him, yet they humbled themselves in his presence. Melchizedek, that being of a higher order, was regarded by the great ones of the pagan world. Those sensuous, godless men, in much the same light that an extraordinarily holy man would be looked upon at the present day. If he suddenly appeared amongst us as a stranger doing good to all around. Thus I saw Melchizedek at the court of Semiramis in Babylon, where she reigned with indescribable grandeur and magnificence. She caused immense buildings to be erected by her slave, whom she oppressed far more severely than did Pharaoh, the children of Jacob in Egypt. The most horrible idolatry was practiced among the Babylonians. Human victims were buried up to the neck in the earth and thus offered in sacrifice.
Mm.
It is hardly credible to what a degree all kinds of luxury, magnificence, opulence, and the arts were carried. Semiramis also waged great wars. Her armies were composed of countless warriors, but these wars were almost always against nations off toward the east. She went not much westward. The nations toward the north were dark and sinister looking people. As time went on, there arose in the kingdom of Semiramis a numerous people of the Semitic race. After the building of the tower, their ancestor had remained in Babylon. They lived as a little pastoral tribe under tents, raised cattle, and celebrated their religious ceremonies by night, either in an open tent or under the starry sky. Many blessings attended them. They were prosperous in all things, and their cattle was always remarkably fine. Semiramis, the diabolical woman, resolved to exterminate this tribe, and she had already destroyed a great many belonging to it. She knew from the blessing attending them that God had merciful designs over them. Therefore, would she, as an instrument of the devil, oppress them. When the distress of these people was at its height, Melchizedek appeared. He went to Semiramis, demanded permission for them to depart, and rebuked her for her cruelty. Semiramis yielded to his desires, and he led them in different bands toward Palestine. Melchizedek dwelt in a tent near Babylon, and here he broke that bread to the good people from which they received strength to depart. He pointed out to them here and there in Canaan places suitable for settlements, and they received from him lands of various quality. He divided them off according to their purity, in order that they should not mix with others. Their names sounded like Samanin or Semanin. Melchizedek pointed out to some of them as suitable for the settlement the region which was afterwards the site of the Dead Sea. But their city was destroyed with Sodom and Gomorrah. Semiramis received Melchizedek with great reverence. She secretly dreaded him on account of his wisdom. He appeared before her as the king of the morning star, that is, of the most distant eastern land. She fancied that he might perhaps woo her for his bride, but he spoke to her sternly, reproached her with her cruelty, and foretold to her the destruction of her pyramid at Memphis. Semiramis grew speechless from terror, and I saw the punishment that fell upon her. She became like a beast. She was for a long time penned up, and they cast to her in derision grass and straw in a manger. Only one servant was faithful to her and furnished her with food. She was freed from the chastisement, but she carried on her disorders anew. She came at last to a frightful end, her intestines being torn from her body. Ugh. She was aged 117 years. Melchizedek came to be regarded as a prophet, as a teacher. as a being from a higher sphere, with whom all things succeeded. There were at that time, as also later, many such apparitions of being of a higher order. They were to the people of that age as familiar as were the angels in Abraham's time. But diabolical apparitions also were frequent, in the same way as false prophets rose up by the side of the true. The departure of the Semitic race from Babylon bears some analogy to that of the Israelites from Egypt, although the former were by no means so numerous as the later.
Just a moment. Semiramis, you say her name better than I do, but she is the child of the Babylonian builder of the Babylonian tower, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we forgot to say that, and I was like, who is she again? So okay, so
Nimrod, right?
Nimrod. Yeah,
She was the daughter. He had
Nimrod.
2 daughters, and they were both evil, one more than the other.
Right, and then one of them was put as a goddess, but she's not the goddess one. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was remembering that correctly. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, but she died now. She became horrible and
yeah, I just didn't know about her. Like I know about Melchizedek, and so now I want to remember to pair her so I remember. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Of the Samoninses, whom Melchizedek settled in Palestine, I saw long before the coming of Abraham 3 men on the so-called Bread Mountain in the neighborhood of Tabor. They lived in caves. They were of the browner complexion than Abraham and were clothed in skin. They bound a great leaf on their head to protect them from the sun. Their life, modeled on that of Enoch, was a holy one. Their religion was simple, though full of mysterious signification, and they had visions and revelations which they easily interpreted. Their religion taught that God would unite himself with man, and for that union they must prepare in every possible way. They also offered sacrifice. A third part of their daily allowance they exposed to the sun, either to be consumed by it or perhaps for the benefit of other needy creatures. That the later was the case, I also saw these people lived quite solitary apart from the rest of the inhabitants of the country. The later were not yet numerous and lived scattered here and there in abodes built in the style of fortified tent cities. I saw those 3 men going through the country, digging wells, cutting down forests, and laying the foundations of subsequent cities. I saw them driving the evil spirits from the air around whole regions and banishing them to other places, to poor, swampy, foggy districts. I saw again that the wicked spirits preferred such wretched abodes. I often saw these men wrestling with them. At first, I wondered how cities could arise where they laid stones, which so soon became overgrown. And then I had another vision in which I was shown a number of places built on these sites. For instance, Sapphith, Bathsheba, Nazareth, where those 3 men worked on the spot upon which afterwards stood the house in which the angel delivered the message to Mary. Gathhepher, Sepphoris, in the region near Nazareth, where Anne's house afterwards stood. We talked about this house today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, guys, if you didn't listen to our little St. Joseph, we talked about the Loretto house.
And it's day 15 that we talked about.
Oh, was it yesterday or today that we talked about it?
It was today, day 15.
Okay.
Wasn't it today? Day 15.
I
Wait a
think
minute.
so. Yeah,
Right.
it was today. It was
Yeah.
today. Yes. Um, and that's
Yes.
the Loretto house that she's talking about, which is where Mary was conceived and where later she lived with Joseph and Jesus. So that's
And
the
where
holy house, the house
and
of
where
Loretto.
Joseph's workshop became the first house that that he had first lived in before they married nearby. It became his workshop.
Yes. I also saw them founding Machmethat and many other places that I have now forgotten. I saw them every month assembling on this mountain where Melchizedek broke a large four-cornered loaf, 3 feet square, perhaps, and tolerably thick, into numerous little pieces which he divided among them. The loaf was of a brownish color and had been baked in the ashes. I saw that Melchizedek also went to them without a companion. Sometimes he bore the loaf quite lightly, as if it merely floated above his hand. And again, when he drew near to the mountain, I saw it was weighed upon his shoulders. I think he took this precaution on approaching them, that they might look upon him as merely a man. Still, they met him with great reverence, prostrating before him. He taught them how to plant vines on Tabor. He also gave them all kinds of seeds, which they scattered in many parts of the country, and which now grow wild there. I saw these people every day cutting a piece off the loaf with the brown spade they used at work. They also ate birds, which flew toward them in great numbers. They had festival days, and they were familiar with the stars. They celebrated the 8th day with prayer and sacrifice. Also, some days in the course of the year, I saw them also making numerous roads through the still wild country to the places where they had laid foundations, dug wells, and sowed seed. This they did This they did that the people coming after them might, by following these roads, make settlements near the wells and fertile places prepared for them. I saw these 3 men often surrounded while at work by crowds of evil spirits whom they could see. I saw these spirits by prayer and the word of command banished to swampy wastes. They departed instantly, and the men went quietly on with their work, clearing and purifying. 10.
They made roads to Cana, Megiddo, and Naim, and in this way they prepared the birthplace of most of the prophets. They laid the foundations of Abel Mahulah and Dothan, and dug out the beautiful baths in Bethulia. Melchizedek still scoured the country alone, and as a stranger, no one knew where he lived. The 3 Samanenses were old, but still very active. On the site of the Dead Sea and in Judea, cities already existed. There were some also further north, but none as yet in the central regions. The Samanenses dug their own graves and sometimes stretched themselves in them. One made near his Hebron, another on Thabor, and the third in the caves not far from Saphat. They were, in a certain sense, for Abraham what John was for Jesus. They purified the country, they prepared the land and the ways, they sowed good fruit, and they brought water for the leader of God's people. But John prepared the heart for penance and for a second birth in Jesus Christ. The Samanenses did for Israel what John did for the church. I have seen such men in other places also where they had been introduced by Melchizedek. I often saw Melchizedek as he appeared in Palestine long before the time of can you say it?
Semiramis?
Semiramis. I'm sorry. I keep forgetting how to pronounce it. I often saw Melchizedek as he appeared in Palestine long time before the time of Semiramis and Abraham, when the country was still a wilderness. He seemed to be laying it out, marking off and preparing certain districts. I saw him entirely alone, and I thought, what is this man doing here so early? There is not a human being in this place. I saw him near a mountain boring a well. It was the source of the Jordan. He had a long, fine instrument which, like a ray of light, pierced the mountainside. I saw him in the same way opening fountains in different parts of the earth. In those early times, that is, before the deluge, I never saw the rivers gushing forth and flowing as they do now, but I saw volumes of water pouring down from a high mountain in the east. Melchizedek took possession of many parts of Palestine by marking them off. He measured off the site for the pool of Bethesda, and long before Jerusalem existed, he laid a stone where the temple was to stand. I saw him planting in the bed of the Jordan the 12 precious stones upon which the priest stood with the ark of the covenant at the departure of the children of Israel. Wow.
Yeah.
He planted them like seeds and they increased in size. I always saw Melchizedek alone, save when he had to busy himself with the uniting, the separating, or the guiding of nations and families. I saw Melchizedek build a castle at Salem. But it was rather a tent with galleries and steps around it, like the castle of Menzour in Arabia. The fountain alone was solid, for it was of stone around. It was of stone. I think the four corners where the principal posts stood were still to be seen even in John's time. It had only a very strong foundation of stone, which looked like a fortification overrun with verdure. John had there his little hut of rushes. The castle tent was a resort for strangers and travelers, a kind of safe and convenient inn near the pleasant waters. Perhaps Melchizedek, whom I have always seen as the guide and counselor of the still unsettled races and nations, kept this castle as a place in which to harbor and instruct them. But even at the time, it bore some reference to baptism. This was Melchizedek's central point. From it, he started on his journeys to lay Jerusalem to visit Abraham and then go elsewhere. Here, he also gathered together and distributed families and peoples who settled in various places. All this took place previously to the offering of bread and wine, which I think made in a valley south of Jerusalem. Melchizedek built Salem before he built Jerusalem. Wherever he labored and constructed, he seemed to be laying the foundation of a future grace, to be drawing attention to that particular place, to be beginning something that would be perfected in the future. Melchizedek belongs to the choir of angels that are set over the countries and nations that brought messages to Abraham and the other patriarchs. They stand opposite the archangels Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. So we just saw that movie, and look how it comes to Abraham now. It's just beautiful. We went through that beginning part, and now we're getting to more people that we know. And I love having this foundation ahead of that movie that we just saw on
So
Abraham.
Melchizedek was a priest, but
Right,
yet
that gave the blessing to Abraham.
Melchizedek, yes.
He gave the first blessing that we ever, with the priest, like, you know,
But
that
was he a priest then, or was he an angel?
he was a priest, but she's seeing him as an angel. But, you know, I think maybe it's his guardian angel that protects him.
Maybe,
We don't understand fully her visions. She
yes.
doesn't understand them.
Maybe she sees that because that's what she sees in her vision, but it's not necessarily that. He was just very holy.
Right.
He was
And
very holy.
maybe he had a very strong guardian angel presence around him. We saw the film yesterday, His Only Son, and it's the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Sarai. And Sarah, who became Sarai, who became Sarah.
Yes.
And it you could kind of see his personality. He was extremely intuitive and very much of a person who observed very
Yes.
carefully. At least that's the way they display his personality, but it certainly sounds like who he would be. I think that they did a case study on what his personality would be, because they usually do that when they write films.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they probably got his personality pretty well down. And so he could have had a very strong guardian angel.
Was that the ending? You read all the way to the end?
Yep, that was the ending.
Oh, wow. I thought it was longer.
No, that's okay. This is perfect.
Oh, no, I see Job. Okay, Job is next.
Yeah,
okay.
but no, that was perfect what we read today.
Yeah.
And it really gave us, what was really nice is how it coincided with us seeing that.
Yeah, and how that Semiramis lady died.
Yeah.
That was kind of weird.
And what's great about the story of the Bible,
it's kind of wild.
Yeah, but the story about the Bible is, Jeff Cavins. I just sent Jeff Cavins all those 24 to Arnie in his thing. You know how I have a private listing of those on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't listened in a while, and I do re-listen to stuff. So I re-listened to like the first two, and in Jeff Cavins, he has the 12 periods and the 14 narrative books. And what I like about what's happening here in the complete visions of Blessed Anne, Catherine Emmerich, is that as she's going through the Bible, she just connected the story. We know all the Bible stories of Babylon and Abraham, but putting them together in that narrative thread that Jeff Cavins talks about, right? It's nice how we now have how do you say it?
Similarities or parallels?
No. What's her name again? Pronounce her name.
Semiramis.
Yeah. How we now have Babylon. The Babylon is now connected to Abraham through Semiramis, because she's the daughter of the builder, and the egotistical builder that wanted to be remembered through time. Well, he's remembered all right, but he's remembered to be a fool.
Nimrod. Yeah, and it's like now we see how bad it was.
Oh,
the
yes.
pagans and everything.
But we knew that. We knew it, but this is really like emphasizing it. So I like the way that this is tying these two Bible stories together. Like Jeff Cavins talked about, we have pieces of stories, but that narrative thread now is connected for me from Babylon and now to Abraham's story. So it's more of a connection, and I love this.
Yeah.
I just love it. So
well, I'm glad you do.
Yeah, I really do.
That's awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah. And not only that, because I'm studying the 70 events, you know that there's 70 events in the Bible timeline. And one of them is the Melchizedek and how he blesses Abram. And then, So it's just all coming together for me personally. So I like this. I like
So
the way,
Melchizedek came to Abraham
and blessed him along the road. Yes, he's in
along the road. So this is when he appeared, when he was on the road. He was younger, right? He was
Yeah,
young.
let me see. Do I have
Exactly
my
when was it? Because
I'm gonna tell you.
I can't
I have
picture
my
it in my
great
mind.
I have my Great Adventure Bible here.
Oh, perfect.
I
Okay.
gave my son the leather one
You
because
want to stop it for a minute and then we'll come right
yeah,
back?
let's stop it for a
Okay.
minute and then we will come right back and we'll know what we're talking about because we want to look where Melchizedek does the
Yes,
blessing.
I'm interested because that will help me remember.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause recording for just a moment. We'll be right back. Okay, so we went to the Bible and we went into the key events, and we are now with Melchizedek, blesses Abram, and I'm going to put this in the notes, but I'm just going to tell it to y'all real quick now. Actually, I wonder if they'd be able to see this if I no, no, it doesn't work. I can't get it to show that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read you real quick the in Jeff Caven's 70 events to memorize the whole Bible. We are on the seventh one. Melchizedek blesses Abram. So the first one is creation in Genesis 1. The second key event is the fall, Genesis 3. The third key event is the curse and promise, Genesis 3. The fourth key event is flood, Genesis 6 through 9. The fifth key event is people scattered at Babel, which we just read, the Babylon, the Tower of Babel, and that's in Genesis 11. The sixth key event is God calls Abram out of Ur. That's Genesis 12. And now we are at Melchizedek, the seventh key event. Melchizedek blesses Abram in Genesis 14. So Jeanette wants us to read this
The blessing.
the blessing and this part. So what I do is I go to USCCB and I go to the Bible and then I go into Genesis and it's 14 and it's down at 14, 18 through 20. So 14, 18 through 20. So Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. So he's the first priest, the first time he appears in the Bible. And this is the parallels that Jeanette always talks about and Jeff Cavins always talks about. The Old Testament is the New Testament brings out the old is hidden in the new. What is it? The new is hidden.
The New Testament lies hidden in the Old, and the Old Testament is unveiled in the New.
There you go. So he was a priest of God Most High. He blessed Abram with these words, and this is what Jeanette wants us to hear. Blessed be Abram by God Most High, the creator of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who delivered your foes into your hand. Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything. So basically, that's that ties us together to each of the key events ties the whole thing together. And one of the reasons why I got excited when Jeanette wanted to read this was because of it also going through the Bible, because I'm trying to, and I'm having a very hard time. My memory is so bad, but I'm trying to memorize these key events, and I'm wishing that Jeanette would help me, but she's far beyond that. I'm still in beginning. You are, Jeanette. You just like, you knew about Lot right away.
This blessing came about because of all the fighting. Lot was, I guess he was taken. He was prisoner, and there were a lot of evil kings. And Abram was blessed because he was he was chosen, and he was able to defeat all these kings. And
the
then,
movie made him, everybody was in awe
yeah,
of him, and they really respected him. I didn't know that. So the movie helped me, and now you're helping me put Lot in. So Lot
yeah.
was his uncle. I believe Lot was his uncle, correct? From our Bible
No,
reading.
Lot was a prisoner,
But
but
he was
Lot
the
was
uncle of Melchizedek, though. Wasn't it his
was
uncle?
he?
I believe
I
it was
thought
his
he
uncle.
was his nephew. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. He's the nephew of Lot.
Uh,
Okay. Okay, I had it backwards.
I have to look it up. I can't remember. It's one or the other, but he was a family member of
Right. And
Abraham.
he rescued him, right?
Abraham was always looking out for him. Remember when they went, when he found out that he moved, he went to Gomorrah, Sodom and Gomorrah area, and
Right.
then he went over there, and he's like, I gotta take care of him. I gotta get him out of there. And so that's
Yeah.
when the whole thing came with Sodom and Gomorrah situation, which is a
But
different
that's
story.
after this.
But here it says, who was Melchizedek? He was obviously a God-fearing man, for his name means, Melchizedek's name means King of Righteousness.
And he
And
was. We looked at
yes,
that movie.
and the king of Salem means King of Peace. He was a priest of God Most High, and that's also in Hebrews 7:1-2. He recognized God as creator of heaven and earth. What else is known about him? For main theories have been suggested. Melchizedek was a respected king of that region. Abraham was simply showing him the respect he deserved.
And
The name, yes, the name Melchizedek may have been a standing title for all the kings of Salem. Melchizedek was a type of Christ, Hebrews 7:3, a type of an Old Testament event of teaching that is so closely related with what Christ did that it illustrates a lesson about Christ, and that's the bread and the wine. Melchizedek was the appearance on earth of the pre-incarnate Christ in a temporary bodily form. So that's why we don't really have that much information about him. He just comes out of nowhere, and you don't have that much information about him. So he could have been something like this, because this kind of it coincides with Catherine Ann's vision of him being an angel, one of the angels, right?
She says an angel, but he's not an angel.
Oh, I know that, but the vision she saw is she saw him more than just a mere man. She saw something weird about him.
Well, we don't know. Maybe he was just an angel. He might not have been a real person. But let me just say this. The fact of the parallels, how it's so built in that he's the very first priest we see. Yeah. And the very first appearance of bread and wine. So it's just a beautiful the way it's folded in.
Isaiah, I'm saying it, girl, again. One of my favorite readings in the Bible, Isaiah 55:8-9.
Yes.
His ways are higher than our ways. Our ways, we're never going to understand it until we're in heaven and can question God. Hey,
right.
Jeanette, what was this about?
Jeanette, can you not wait to go and sit at the table?
I can wait.
But I mean, when you do, to sit at the table with all of these men and these women and these people and these saints, along with their families.
I'm sitting next to Mother Angelica and Mother Teresa. I want to sit next to both. I want to
sit next to Saint Teresa of Avila.
And Padre Pio.
Joan of Arc, Saint Joan of Arc, Saint Joseph, our Saint Joseph.
No, that's Padre Pio.
Saint Michael, the Archangel, and then he's gonna have to go away to fight some battles down on Earth, and we'll be like, "Are you gonna be back for dinner? For the feast?" Yeah, but I gotta go fight some evil on Earth.
Anyways, okay. So
We're getting
that's a
silly.
little bit of information on Melchizedek
Yes.
because he's extremely a big mystery to me. I would love to get to know him better. And the good thing is that I believe he comes back after Job. I think he comes
He
back.
does. Okay.
Yes, he does. He comes
Okay.
back in number 13, which is after the next one we talk about Job. Then she goes back to Melchizedek's sacrifice of bread and wine. It is explained better. I'm very curious.
The covenant. That's the next key event is number 8, the covenant with Abraham. And that's in Genesis 15. That's right before Sodom and Gomorrah. So Genesis 15 is when he comes back for the covenant.
Okay. So we will see.
So exciting. Are we having fun or what? Right after the fish fry too. We just went to fish fry and we're like, you know what?
From the fish fry, guys.
We got to get this done. We're tired. We're getting silly, but it's because we had a lot of fun with this.
My hair's all over the place.
You know what? But we ate good. We had fried fish from Natalie, who works with
Most Precious Blood Catholic Church in Oviedo.
It was so good. Yeah.
Very, very beautiful event. It was given by Natalie. She is amazing.
Yeah.
And we went with half of the tribe, not everybody, but the people that could come. We all went. A quarter of
the tribe.
Yeah. And I wish I would have known they had pizza because I would have gotten the pizza.
I told you, but you didn't hear me.
I didn't hear you. You got to repeat yourself sometimes with me because I'm like I don't know. I'm like
it's our ADD
else all the time.
No, same thing happens to me. I miss half of what's said because my ADD has me thinking of something else. But also Sunday night, teenagers there are going to be dressing up for the Stations of the Cross, and we're going, and I'm going to film it for you guys. So the Stations of the Cross, I just love when they dress up, and teenagers love drama. So I think it's going to even be better than the adult one. Oops, I didn't say that.
Okay, guys. Well, then we'll see you tomorrow, God willing.
No, we're not doing book club tomorrow. But we're doing Joseph. Yeah, but we're doing Joseph, and we're going to tape Sundays on Saturday so that we can take off for our day of rest, but you'll still be able to watch it. Okay?
Yes.
All right.
God bless you all. Love you guys. Bye-bye.